Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Uh-huh.
You know how we always say that nursing school is like boot camp for your brain?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, get ready to add another tool to your nursing arsenal.
Oh, this is a good one.
We're tackling assertiveness today,
Assertiveness.
which honestly should just be renamed How to Survive and Thrive as a Nurse. And a human, let's be real.
It's funny you say that because when I was a brand new nurse,
Yeah.
I thought assertiveness was about like being kind of bossy,
Uh-huh.
but it turns out it's really the opposite of that. It's
Okay.
about being a strong advocate for your patients, but doing it in a way that respects everyone around you.
So less drill sergeant and more diplomatic superhero.
Exactly.
All right, so I'm already intrigued, but I think we need to break this down a bit. What does assertiveness actually look like in the real world of, chaotic hospital floors and everything?
So think about it like this. You're in the middle of a busy shift.
Ah,
There's a lot going on, right?
likewise.
Assertiveness means you can stay calm, communicate clearly, and make sure everyone's needs are met, including your own.
Okay, so it's not just about being nice all the time.
No, it's definitely not about being a pushover.
Right, because I feel like nice can sometimes lead to getting walked all over, especially in a high-stress job like nursing.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance.
Okay, so our source material actually breaks down communication into four main styles: assertive, non-assertive, aggressive, and passive-aggressive.
The Fab Four.
Let's start with non-assertive.
Okay.
Paint me a picture. What does that look like for, say, a nursing student?
Okay, so imagine you're a nursing student on clinical rotation, right?
Okay.
And you're looking at a patient's chart, and you notice a discrepancy in the medication dosage.
Uh-oh.
A non-assertive response might be to just kind of hesitate,
Right.
not wanting to question the experienced nurse or the doctor.
Like, who am I to say anything?
Exactly. Who am I?
Classic imposter syndrome. But holding back like that could have, pretty big consequences.
Huge. Absolutely.
So what about the opposite end of the spectrum? What if we go full-on aggressive?
All right, so same scenario,
Mm-hmm.
but this time the student, storms up to the nurse
Uh-huh.
and starts like accusing them of incompetence or even interrupting the doctor during rounds with a, really confrontational tone.
Ooh, yeah. I can feel the tension already. Not exactly a recipe for teamwork.
No. All
Not at all.
right, so those are the what not to do's. But how do we actually hit that assertive sweet spot? Give us an example of what that would sound like.
All right, so in this case, an assertive nursing student would calmly approach the nurse,
Yeah.
maybe pull them aside and say something like, hey, I'm a little confused about the dosage for, let's say, Mr. Jones. My calculations seem different. Could you maybe help me understand the reasoning behind this order?
Okay, so respectful, clear, and most importantly, it's focused on patient safety.
Okay, so we've covered the obvious ones. But what about passive-aggressive? Isn't that more like, whispering snarky comments in the break room?
Oh, it can definitely be that.
Right.
But a lot of times it's way more subtle.
Okay.
Like in our medication scenario, the passive-aggressive nursing student might, complain to other students about the nurse's mistake,
Oh, yeah.
but they never actually address it directly with the person who made the error.
The classic avoid confrontation at all costs approach.
Exactly. But that doesn't really help anyone.
Especially in a field where, clear communication is literally life or death sometimes.
Absolutely. It can have real consequences. And that's why it's so important to be able to recognize these different styles, understand your own tendencies, and then work towards that assertive sweet spot.
Totally. Now, this is where I think things get really interesting. Our source material actually talks about the basic human rights in assertiveness.
Ooh, I like that.
I never really thought about it like that before. It's like we have fundamental rights when it comes to communication.
It is. It really is. It's all about recognizing that you have the right to express your feelings,
Okay.
even if they're different from what other people think.
Uh-huh.
You have the right to say no without feeling super guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
And to ask for what you need,
Yeah.
and to even make mistakes without being, like, totally condemned.
Wait, so you're telling me I have the right to say no to, like, picking up an extra shift or doing a million favors for everyone without feeling like a terrible person?
You do. You absolutely do.
This is life-changing.
It's so empowering.
So how does all of this tie into being a good nurse?
Well, think about it. If you're always putting everyone else's needs before your own
Yeah.
and saying yes to everything, you're going to burn out so fast.
Oh, for sure.
And a burnt out nurse can't give the best care to their patients.
So assertiveness isn't just about being strong or confident. It's actually a form of self-care.
It is. It absolutely is. It's recognizing your own worth, and setting those healthy boundaries so you can show up as your best self for your patients.
This is amazing. I'm already feeling more empowered. But let's get practical. Our source also outlines some specific techniques to actually boost our assertiveness game. Where do we even begin?
Well, we could start with the broken record technique.
Ooh, broken record.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more.
It's super simple, but so effective.
Okay.
Basically, you just calmly and repeatedly state your position like a broken record.
Okay.
So let's say you've got a patient's family member who's, really demanding a treatment that's not actually in the best interest of the patient.
Right.
You can use this technique to just kind of gently but firmly hold your ground.
Okay. I like that.
So you might say something like, I understand your concern, but the doctor has decided against that treatment. And just keep repeating that.
Okay, so it's about staying consistent and calm, even when things get a little, heated.
Exactly. And that can really help de-escalate things, because you're not getting sucked into an argument.
Right, you're just being like a calm, steady rock in the storm.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so break and record check. What else do we have?
Okay, let's talk about fogging.
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 Okay, this one sounds a little mysterious.
It is kind of sneaky in a good way. So basically, you're agreeing in principle, but not actually giving in.
Okay, so like a strategic agreement.
Exactly. So for example, let's say you're a new nurse and a more senior nurse is kind of criticizing your charting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they say something like, your notes aren't detailed enough.
Okay.
Instead of getting defensive, you could use fogging by saying something like, you're right, I can always add more details to my notes. I'm also trying to prioritize the most critical information.
Ooh, so you're acknowledging their point, but also subtly standing your ground.
Exactly. You're validating their perspective while still, maintaining your professional judgment.
Nice.
It's very diplomatic. Okay, now let's talk about negative assertion.
Negative assertion. Is this where we get to be, like, super pessimistic?
No, not at all. It's about gracefully accepting constructive criticism.
Okay.
So let's say you made a mistake, right?
It happens to the best of us.
Oh, it happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're learning. So you make a mistake during a procedure and your supervising nurse points it out. Instead of getting flustered or denying it,
Sure.
you could say something like, you're right, I didn't handle that as well as I could have. Thanks for pointing that out. I'll be more mindful next time.
Okay, so it's like owning your mistakes without letting them completely destroy your confidence.
Yeah. And, you're creating a learning opportunity.
Right, because mistakes are how we learn. Okay, that
Right.
makes sense. So what's next on our assertiveness toolkit?
We've got negative inquiry.
Negative inquiry.
This one's all about actively seeking feedback,
Okay.
even if it's a little uncomfortable.
So instead of, like, running away from criticism, I should actually invite it.
In a way, yes. It's about showing that you're open to learning and growing.
Okay.
So for example, let's say you get, kind of a lukewarm evaluation on your clinical performance.
Oof. Yeah, those are never fun.
No. But instead of just feeling bad about it,
Yeah.
you could use negative inquiry to say something like, I really appreciate the feedback, and I'd love to understand what I can do to improve. Can you maybe give me some specific examples of areas where I fell short?
So it's like taking that feedback and turning it into an opportunity for growth.
Exactly. It really shows that you're committed to getting better.
I like that. All right, what's next?
We have workable compromise, which is all about collaboration
Okay.
and finding solutions that really work for everyone involved.
This one seems super important, especially in a hospital setting where you're constantly working as part of a team.
It is, yeah. So imagine you and another nurse are both swamped.
Uh-huh.
You both have a ton of patients, and you really need to coordinate care.
Right.
Instead of getting into a power struggle over who does what, you can use workable compromise.
Okay, so how would that sound?
You could say, okay, I can handle Mr. Smith's medication if you can take care of Mrs. Jones's dressing change.
Right, you're finding that win-win solution.
Exactly, and it just makes the whole day run a little smoother for everyone.
Okay, and last but definitely not least,
Hit me with it.
we have the cornerstone of assertive communication, I statements.
Oh, yes, I statements. I feel like everyone's heard of them, but maybe not everyone really knows how to use them well.
Yeah, they can be tricky, but basically, they're all about owning your feelings and needs without blaming other people.
Okay.
So instead of saying, like, you're always late for shift change,
Right.
you would say something like, I feel frustrated when shift change is delayed because it makes it harder for me to prioritize patient care.
Ah, okay. So you're shifting the focus from
Uh,
attacking the other person to just expressing your own experience.
exactly. And that makes it so much easier to have a productive conversation
Right.
because you're not immediately putting the other person on the defensive.
Totally. Okay, this is all fantastic, but I have to admit, sometimes the biggest obstacle to being assertive is like the voice in my own head.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the one that's all like, I'm not experienced enough, or what if I'm wrong, or what if everyone judges me?
The inner critic.
Yes,
Yeah, that,
inner critic. How do I deal with that?
well, that's where thought stopping comes in.
Thought stop it.
There's like a mental reset buddy for those negative thought spirals.
Okay, sign me up for that. How do I do it?
It's actually super simple. First, you have to become aware of the negative thought.
Okay.
So let's say you're about to speak up in a team meeting, but your inner critic pops up and says, ooh, everyone's going to judge me.
I know that feeling all too well. It's like stage fright, but in a hospital.
Exactly. So the key is to catch that thought as early as possible
Mm-hmm.
and interrupt it. You can literally say, stop,
Stop, okay.
either out loud or just in your head. Got it. What happens after I tell that voice to stop?
You replace that negative thought with a positive affirmation.
Oh, okay.
So instead of everyone's going to judge me, you might think, I have important insights to share, and my perspective is valuable for this patient's well-being.
So you're basically reframing the situation
Mm-hmm.
and choosing to focus on a more empowering belief.
Exactly. And the more you practice this, the
Mhm.
easier it becomes to just shut down those negative thoughts before they, completely derail you.
It's like training your brain to be more positive and supportive.
Exactly.
This is so helpful. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools to try out.
It's a whole assertiveness toolbox.
And the best part is, it's not like I have to become an assertiveness guru overnight.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Right. I can just start small and gradually build my confidence.
Exactly. Assertiveness is a skill that you
Okay.
develop over time. So be patient with yourself and celebrate those small victories along the way.
I love that. And as I get more comfortable using these techniques, I'm guessing it'll benefit not just my work life, but my personal life too.
Absolutely. Assertiveness is a life skill. It helps you in all areas of your life.
This is making me realize that assertiveness is so much more than just, speaking up or being confident. It's really about valuing myself, setting boundaries, and advocating for what I believe in, both at work and in my personal life.
Yes, it's about owning your power.
I love that.
It really is. And it's not even just about mastering these techniques ourselves.
Right.
It's about recognizing them in other people too, and understanding how different communication styles kind of interact.
Oh, interesting. So it's almost like you're learning this secret language of communication.
It is. It totally is. Once you start really paying attention,
Yeah.
you'll see these patterns everywhere.
Hmm.
Like you'll be able to spot passive-aggressive behavior, a mile away.
Okay.
You'll be able to see those subtle signs of aggression and even kind of predict how someone might react in a certain situation.
That's kind of amazing. It's like
Yeah.
you have this superpower to deal with all the tricky interpersonal stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
Especially in healthcare, which can be, a very high-pressure environment.
Oh, for sure. So give me an example. How would this work in a real life situation?
Okay. Let's say you're working with a doctor
Mm.
who has a very, direct communication style. Maybe even a little bit aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
By understanding that you can approach those interactions a little more strategically, maybe use some fogging or some I statements
Right.
to make sure that your voice is heard without making the situation worse.
So it's like having a cheat sheet for how to deal with different personality types.
Exactly. And the best part is as you become more comfortable with assertiveness, it just becomes second nature.
Okay.
It's not about putting on an act or pretending to be someone you're not.
Right.
It's about developing that confidence to just be your authentic self
Uh-huh.
while still respecting the people around you.
I think that's what I was getting hung up on before. I was worried that being assertive meant that I had to become a totally different person.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's more about tapping into your own inner strength and using it in a positive way.
Exactly. It's about finding your voice and using it to advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
your patients, and your profession.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about the different communication styles, the basic human rights in assertiveness,
Yeah.
a whole bunch of techniques to help us become more assertive.
It's a lot.
It is. But as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to really take away from this?
I want them to remember that assertiveness is a gift.
Oh, I like that.
It's a gift to yourself, it's a gift to your patients,
Yeah.
and it's a gift to your colleagues because it creates a more positive and respectful and effective environment for everyone.
Beautifully said. And I think it goes way beyond just the hospital, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Assertiveness can help you in every area of your life.
It helps you live more authentically, build stronger relationships,
Mhm.
and even make a positive impact on the world.
So to all of our suture nurses out there, go be assertive. You've got the knowledge, the tools, and most importantly, you've got the inner strength to make a real difference in the world.
You got this.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive. We'll see you next time for a brand new topic.